Hi, and welcome everyone to today's. This is a brand new week. It is Monday, and this is Constitutional Monday on our Hobo Radio Survival broadcast. I am your host, Professor Tuck, coming to you from the hot and miserable and muggy state of Missouri. Okay, so today is kind of been has been a kind of a wild day for those of you guys that are listening. This may not be a very long broadcast today. We are gonna. I've left it open because what I'd like to do with everybody, if we possibly could, is I want to open this up, give you guys a chance to ask questions. I'm gonna give you guys more of an update. This is more of an update than it is a Constitutional Monday. Um, uh, okay, so uh, um, ask your question. Hold on, questions in. Okay, there. That way it is set there for chat. So if there are questions that people come up and stuff like that, they can ask the questions. This is an open topic Monday. Normally we have a whole study or a whole laid out broadcast. And for those of you guys that are used to that and aren't used to my free forming, I got to say I apologize. But today it's just going to be more of a free form day. If you are over in the green room, which means you become a member over on Patreon, the link is down in the description. If you come over, get a link in or become a member over on Patreon, whether it be $5 or $10 a month, you will get access to the green room, and that means you get to show up and listen or have a chit chat with me before the broadcast. So before I click the go live button here on YouTube, I am over in my green room, which is actually I'm doing that on my phone, and I do the broadcast on my laptop. But that's kind of what's how this works. So if you'd like to come over, become a member of the green room, come over to Patreon. I post the link. I just posted the link a few minutes ago. For those of you that are here, it looks like we've got a few members over there. For those of you that are in the green room, welcome. Thank you. Glad you guys are here. For those of you that are here on the broadcast, hi, welcome. Glad you guys are here. All right, let me kind of update you guys on some stuff that's going on because everything's kind of fluid with me. Most people don't understand is that as much as I'd like to say that I'm a reformed nomad and that I bought a piece of land off grid and that I'm never gonna leave it and I'm gonna stay here and I'm just no. I can't. I've been talking with certain people. As much as I love the whole static thing, I'm a traveler. It is who I am through and through. Um, a lot of people like to label me as homeless, and I think that they misunderstand me. Is that I'm not necessarily homeless. Maybe the first couple of times I was homeless, but that was until I kind of got my legs under me and figured out what the hell I was doing. Once I understood that not only could it benefit me, but it was actually an adventure and that there were some cool things that you could do with it, then it became more of I became more of a nomad because I would travel from city to city, state to state, and I would get jobs, lose them, and all that other stuff. What's up, Skeeter? Nice to see you, buddy. Glad to see you. So, yeah. Anyways, with this being said, I think that let's have a little chat about homelessness for a quick second because we all have our different view on homelessness. Most people, or I would say the average person, that when they see homeless, they think, okay, this is somebody that I feel bad for. They can't afford a roof, they can't afford a house, they can't afford anything for them. But let's let's have a reality let's have a realistic talk because people look at homelessness as a bad thing and homelessness is not a bad thing necessarily. Especially if you consider yourself to be a constitutionalist because as we've talked over the last week, we've talked about how with every corresponding right you have a duty and obligation. What does it mean? What are your duties? What are your obligations to be free? What do you need to do in order to be free? What is it that is required of you? And there's a lot of things that are required of you to be free because we're all free to varying degrees depending upon how we assert our rights, how much intervention we want from the state, what levels or what areas do we want it, and at what level do we want any type of intervention from the state. So we all have varying degrees of freedom, but full on freedom If you really want to be free, which means you are no longer subject to a government, but to your creator itself, whoever you name that creator to be, you are under natural law by birth before you choose to subjugate yourself to another, to a fictional jurisdiction. You by birth are governed and subject to your creator. That is the primary law. That is natural law. That is something that the founding fathers and all of our ancestors had talked about for generations, especially considering how closely tied we were to nature. As industrialization happened, we stopped being so close to nature like we used to be. And so, therefore, we forgot the order of nature and nature's law. And our founding fathers were quoted quite frequently saying, "Nature's God, nature's laws." And it's we are all bound by the same laws, and that's where the Bill of Rights come from. That was the ideology between the Declaration of Independence. There was a lot of this. Even the Black Robe Brigade said that you were bound by your creator before you were bound by man, and so therefore they push people to understand that they had certain rights that were inherent to them, that were given to them upon birth without ever having to question it. And some of those have been enumerated in our constitutional documents, such as the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and several other pieces of correspondence that go back and forth. But regardless of what religion you choose, we are all still bound by natural law, because the natural law came before religion. Man made religion. Natural law was here before man got here. So when we talk about homelessness and we're like, okay, we think that homelessness is bad. Does that necessarily mean that homelessness is bad? No, not necessarily. Because if you are to be free, that means you are to be self-governed. This is the ideology that built this country, that founded its documents in the Articles of Confederation, is that every man has the right to govern himself without outside interference or outside intervention. Every man has the right to govern himself. And that is extremely important. So if you are governing yourself, does that mean that you are going to be perfect? Does that mean that you're always going to have a house? Does that mean you're always going to have a roof over your head? Does that mean you're always going to have food and water? Or does that mean that you're always going to have access to certain resources you need and certain things? No, 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 it does not. By being truly free, what you were saying, by choosing to be free. Now, there's a difference between choosing to be free and freedom being thrust on you. Some people just don't want to be free. They like being slaves. And those are the ones that are quite quickly and expediently clawing their ways back into the system instead of trying to stay without the system. So when it comes to the homeless to begin with, by standing on your own 2 feet, if you choose to go this route, by standing on your own 2 feet, when you've lost everything, you've lost your job, your car, your income, and stuff like that. You're not calling on friends, you're not calling on family, you're not stressing out relationships, you're not pushing those people away. Instead, you are. I am an. I. This is what I tell myself. I am a man. And as a man, I am responsible for taking care of myself. Nobody else is responsible for taking care of me other than me. Not my girlfriend, not my father, not my mother, not my best friends, not my friends. It is up to me to learn how to support myself. And then, we can get into value and economy and stuff like that. But as a man, I am solely responsible for my outcome. That means whether I have a house, I don't have a house. I have a car, I don't have a car. Whether I choose to do this or choose that, because when you stand on your own 2 feet, okay, and you live true self-governance, what that means is that you are also willing to accept the consequences of your actions. And right now, just like Christianity has been so commercialized, so has constitutionalism. Constitutionalism has been so commercialized to make people think it's free, easy, and it's a good thing to have, because they're like, yes, this and that and the other, but not realizing that they're wolves cloaking themselves in the flag, still trying to perpetuate an authoritarian regime while still calling what they're doing, being a fan of the Constitution. Because anybody who wants a strong national government is not a constitutionalist. You want a strong state government, not a strong national government. Because our founding fathers, whether it was under the Articles of Confederation or the under the actual Constitution, our founding fathers had chose to break away from England, because the distance from the capital where they were making policy to the distance of the colonies was so great that there was a complete reality disconnect, because in England life was different than what life was like here in the Americas. Just like life is different in the Beltway than it is in rural America, in big city America, in like the mountains and BFE America. There's all different places in which in um where the culture is different. And can Washington D.C. tell some dude in Montana or some dude in Arizona or some dude in Mississippi how to live their life to where it is beneficial to them all? No, they cannot. Why? Because customs are regional. Okay, I am from the great state of Oregon, and in the great state of Oregon, part of our culture is we are more of a mountaineering type community. So we go out in the woods and we forage. I remember, going and foraging for mushrooms and having puffball mushrooms as a kid. We marijuana was a big thing, and if you ever listen to any true Oregonian, they will share their disappointment that Oregon was number 3 to legalize it. Why? Because um, because that is part of our culture. Yeah, we might have beers and stuff like that, but that's kind of like something that yuppies do. Oregonians, they're stoners. It's part of the culture there. And so, if that's part of the culture there, and Washington, D.C. thinks, oh, well, that's not okay, we don't like that, and therefore takes away the culture of one area in order to make everybody conform, how is that a good thing to happen? Where is the states' rights, the Ninth and 10th Amendments? Okay, we want a strong national government. Well, to have a strong national government means that the Ninth and 10th Amendments no longer matter. Okay, because our founding fathers realized that power needed to be maintained, and governance and the most power and most influential part of your life happens in your local community. It does not happen at the state level. It does not happen at the federal level. It happens in your local community, in your county. This is where all of everything affects you. This is where the power was supposed to be centralized, because this is where the people originate from to begin with. So if you look at the government in the form of a trust structure, you have the people as the guarantors and the beneficiaries, and and the government as the trustee. And so therefore the people create the county creates the state creates the federal government, all for mutual defense, and also for commerce. Those are the two main priorities of government. And so therefore, that was where power was supposed to originate. Power was not supposed to originate in Washington D.C. by some senator that is sleeping with a Chinese spy and selling secrets because he wants to retain power. Mr. McConnell, that's how do you expect us to believe that you're ever gonna to work in our interest? So let's see. Skeeter says, I have a friend in Florida. About 10 years ago, he was homeless. He got a shower once or twice a week. Yeah, that was me too. He kept his clothes clean and his hair was always neat and clean. His campsite was always immaculate. Yeah, and he probably never got messed with either, because the cops, they'll leave you alone if you're not being a mess. And you're not being a nuisance. Okay, and then let's see. This country was supposed to be a melting pot. Everyone different. The government doesn't like that. No, Um, no, the government wants everybody to be different because that's how they divide us. As long as they keep us bickering amongst ourselves, being divided, well, then being different from each other, then they have nothing to worry about. Okay, but getting back to what I was talking about is that as a man, you are responsible for yourself. You are responsible for all of your actions, including your upkeep. So when that means when you lose everything, what is your responsibility as a man? That means you you leave your stuff behind. That means you go sleep out on a street corner. That means you pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you rebuild yourself again. I've been chronically homeless for 25 years. Okay. I've spent close to 15 years total on the streets, off and on the streets the way I did it. I've been the technical definition of homeless. Okay. Um, Now I consider myself a nomad because I've always been traveling and I just use this as a medium to do it. But I did do it and I did it for a lot of years until I finally got ready to settle down and started myself a business and then ended up, I lost everything again and I started over again. And so, what, 3 years ago, I started off saying, hey guys, I am homeless. And I started hiking trails, building my digital footprint, building myself to a point where I could actually buy a piece of land in Concho, Arizona. Okay. And I bought a piece of land through my sponsor, who was Stephanie at openairproperties.net. Absolutely phenomenal lady. She is probably my one of the top people as far as my favorite people in life, because when when nobody else would give you a chance, she's the person that will give you a chance if you're worth it. And I think that that's very important. And giving me the chance when she did was so impactful, because then it slingshotted me to a point to where my life is improving. I have opportunities. Okay. I have things that are going in the right direction. Now, while I was on trail, I made lots of good money doing YouTube. That's why I felt comfortable getting off trail to go buy a piece of land. Little did I know, I didn't realize the how cataclysmic it was going to be to my channel. I've been rebuilding ever since. I've been, doing that for 9 months in the Arizona desert. Now I have an opportunity to take what I've been working and building for the last several months and to really expand on that. Okay. What I'm sharing with you is the true American dream, the ability to fail and succeed on your own and to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and move yourself along. People are always going to help you along the way, but you got to show that you're worth the help. Not only that, when you have an opportunity, you need to seize the day. That is important, to seize the opportunity, because when you have an opportunity, are you too blind, deaf, and stupid to figure it out? Or are you wise enough to be aware of what's going on around you to know that opportunities are popping up? Okay. That's part of, I think it's part of just the personality of being a traveler, but this is really, really important. And this is something that I really think that people fail to realize. They think America is, I need to make so much money that I can have my own private jet and have my own private island. That doesn't Is that really happiness? I am more fulfilled in my life by struggles than I ever was by having comfort. Okay. Life is about struggles. It's about experience. And that is the great thing, that you have the right to govern yourself. You may not want to go through struggle. You may want to have the easy life. You may want to be comfortable, but not everybody wants to be comfortable. And if we have laws that are passed that makes everybody be the same, how is that free? And how does that actually assist those who are actually living the Constitution by its true meaning, by its true roots, which is to govern oneself? And just because I like to travel, or because I like to do this, or I like to do that. Now, there are fine lines, and I think that this is where society kind of, if you really want to get into it, I'm going to urge somebody to ask that question, but I'm not going to answer it unless somebody wants me to define some of these fine lines. So, has a house, car, and a wife. Um, hey, what's up, DTH? Nice to see you. His last wife was taken by oh, damn. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Skeeter. What's up, DFH? Nice to see you, buddy. Um, but it's just it's you have two choices in life. Okay, like I had a Rothschild. He says you got two choices when it comes to doing dope. You can either do the dope or let the dope do you. And I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense, but I don't think I fully understand that. And you know what? You can either do life or let life do you. Most people are letting life do them. That's why they're in the situations. That's why they're miserable. That's why they're not doing anything that they want, because really, you don't even get a chance to be you, let alone know who you are. Which is something that I think that as individuals, we should definitely be worried about. But if we're really wanting to talk about and say, hey, look, I believe in the Constitution, then maybe when you see a homeless person, instead of instead of saying, look, get a job, you bum, be like me so that I don't feel as miserable, maybe you say, hey, this guy is living free and he's going to stand on his own. It doesn't mean you give him a dollar, doesn't mean you do anything for him. It means that you recognize his right to be free and to make his own choices. Now, if he wants to be a putz and start begging for money instead of doing something or offering something of value, then that's on him. Okay. And he's going to suffer the consequences. And if when people give, yeah, no, I'm not going to go down that road, but it is what it is. Okay. And this is something that if you're thinking about, how do I know if I'm free? If you're free, if you're willing to lose everything, and instead of asking for other people to help you, you're willing to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. You see it as an opportunity, not as a failure. Because homelessness, losing everything, even if you don't go fully homeless or you just go to couch surfing, it still is a humbling experience to remind you that you need to be more careful when you take risks, because when you take certain risks that are too high, those risks may end up putting you homeless. By taking a risk and putting all of your eggs in one basket to be somebody else's employee, we will call it we'll just call it employee. It'll be nice. If you choose to be somebody else's employee and you stake your whole life on that, then you are a fool. You are just seeking another master. Um, those who are truly free, who really want to have freedom, are the ones that have enough confidence to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Sometimes we call them freelancers. Sometimes we call them small business owners. Sometimes we call them nomads. Sometimes we call them entrepreneurial spirits. Sometimes we even call them hustlers. But these are the people that will stand up and they will go out and they will get their hustle going. And they're not worried about somebody else providing them a livable wage, a livable income, a way to live, to be able to have all of these amenities that we've been told to have. If you truly value the self-governance ideology of the Constitution, then I think that you will see merit in what it is that I said. So let me see what other questions we have, and then we're going to start closing this out. For those that are over on the green room, one moment. So let's see. Okay, how's the house? I'm Tux amputee, off-grid friend. Proof you can do anything you put your mind to. Yes, Skeeter. And Skeeter is very proud of this. So just so that you guys can, I'll tell you a little bit about Skeeter, because he's my neighbor back in Concho. Um, he mm, he actually what was it? He he had a shotgun go off, and we'll just leave it at that. I'm not gonna razz him about it. But he had a shotgun go off, and it went through his leg. He had to have his leg amputated. Once his leg healed, they gave him a prosthetic leg. I've actually got to see it. I think that there's even some pictures that I've shown of it on in the community tab or something. But anyways, yeah, he's got a prosthetic leg and he's been going to physical therapy for some time now. And he finally just got to a point where he can actually walk on that prosthetic leg. So he is, he is resilience at its best. That is what real America is. Real America is, I blow my leg off. It doesn't mean I can't walk. It just means it's going to be a little different. That is America. So, your dog shot you. Okay. But anyways, yes, you don't have a loaded shotgun on your lap and then let your dog sleep on your lap with you and not expect that to happen. No. It's just it's kind of like falling asleep with a cigarette in your mouth. It's just something you don't do. So, but yes, but the thing is we have the thing that makes Skeeter so awesome in his own right is that he has the ability to um, he has the ability to bounce back and to keep plugging on and to not let it get to him. See, nowadays we look at that person and we go, "Oh wow, look at that dude. That guy is something else." Whereas in reality, whereas in reality, 100 years ago, that was pretty common. Nobody went over and went like, "Look at the guy who shot his leg off and now walking. Can you believe that?" You see what I'm saying? So it's a little bit today in America we have been hey, what's up, Smoking Swamp? We as Americans have gotten so soft, and it's so easy to get so soft. I've been here for God, let's see. I got here on the 8th and it's now so I've been here almost 3 weeks exactly. And yeah, in 3 weeks I have managed to I've already managed to get climatized to air conditioning. So now when I go out in that hot, muggy Missouri weather, it's like, holy cow, I feel like I'm back in Florida all over again. So yeah, it's we as Americans have gotten weak. We need to learn to go without. And I think once we learn that we don't really need as much as we thought we did, um, then we will probably do better. Because I think that we have, in order for these oligarchs and these corporations to be able to gain their power and their influence and to maintain it, they need us to be consumer based, which means we need to be subservient to the factory to therefore replace the factory orders with the money in which we make from them to put it right back into their pockets. And so therefore it becomes a revolving door where they get to keep the most money and everybody else gets the pennies that they need to be able to buy their bread. And I think that this is what we see in society today. If you really think about, if you really think about, uh, just everything yeah. Anyways, all right, guys. So let's see here. We are sitting at 115 here, Gainesville. Holy cow, Smoking Swamp. That is Whew. I'm glad it's you and not me. I'm glad it's you and not me. But you know what? In Arizona, there's no humidity, and 115 feels like 80 degrees. So, um, but anyways, all right. With that being said, guys, those of you that are here in the broadcast, I hope you learned something. I hope this helped. Um, I hope this helped you see the world in a different way and understand that what we see as not necessarily right is may actually be right. You got to allow people to live free. And so, if you are in the green room, for those of you that are still in the green room, hold on just a minute as I end this broadcast. And for those of you that would like to know different ways that you can support the channel, come on over to hobotuck.com. There is a support button on the for the menu in the menu. Just click on that, and it has the links to my PayPal, my Cash App, my affiliate links, and all kinds of other stuff that might be valuable to you. And if you like that, you might also want to go over there and check out under the More tab. You will see. You'll see a couple of blueprints that I've put there for you that'll help you, and I've also got a an emergency toolkit blueprint as well. So go check that out, guys. Hobotuck.com. Thanks for being here, and I will see you guys tomorrow. For those of you in the green room, you guys can go ahead and unmute yourself.